Thank you very much, Emma, and our panel. Inspiring, deep discussion on some of the challenges we're facing going forward. So to close out our session, we, Arms Control Association, wanted to leave on a energizing note. And I'm going to get to that in a moment. But I just want to say, I hope today's conference, mini-conference, has served as a reminder of the difficult experiences, the wisdom and the resilience of the communities affected by nuclear weapons use, testing, and production through these many decades in Japan, Kazakhstan, the South Pacific, across the United States, in many other countries. We also hope we've underscored why we today in 2025 owe it to ourselves and future generations to make a renewed push to deal with the problem that we face and to move the world back from the nuclear brink and toward the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons, even if that goal seems rather far off at the moment. As we just heard in that third panel, as the world approaches these anniversaries, there are already a lot of citizens working hard to mobilize action, but there is a lot of noise out there. There is a lot of difficulty with our political system that we're still facing. But one of the things that's clear, as Tom Countryman noted, the others noted, is that in the absence of meaningful nuclear arms control diplomacy at the governmental level, we are on the cusp of an even more dangerous and deeper problem ahead, on the cusp of a dangerous new nuclear arms race. So we heard some of the comments about what President Trump has said about nuclear weapons as of late. At first, I thought these were positive. He said, nuclear weapons are extraordinarily costly, yes. If used, they're extraordinarily devastating. And he expressed a desire for denuclearization talks with Russia and China. He didn't just say this once, he said it 3 times, unprompted. So these words are important, but words are words. And it is our job to push this administration and Congress and others to act on some of those words. We also heard a rather interesting and hard to understand, but still very interesting video from the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, that concluded that, quote, "We must work toward a world where no one has to live in the fear of a nuclear holocaust," unquote. I think we can all agree on that. But it leaves us with the question, what is the Trump administration doing in that regard? The costs of nuclear weapons are still going up, and there's no active diplomacy going on between the United States and Russia. Just this afternoon, or I guess this morning in Kuala Lumpur at the ASEAN meeting, the U.S. Secretary of State met with the Russian Minister of Secretary of State. Did they talk about the issue of the pending expiration of the new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty? Not to my knowledge, not in the after reporting about that meeting. So this must change, and it must change soon, because the New START Treaty, the last remaining agreement that limits the world's 2 largest arsenals, is going to expire in 210 days. It's not a long time. And at that point, the United States and Russia could, in theory, increase the size of their nuclear arsenals. They could double the size. This would be the first increase in some 35 years, reversing much of the success that we've been talking about over the course of this afternoon. We already have members of the nuclear weapons establishment, many members of Congress, pushing the Pentagon to be ready to upload more warheads on U.S. Missiles and bombers as soon as New START expires. So this crisis, this potential crisis, is really here and now. And as I think we can all agree after this afternoon's session, more nuclear weapons do not make any of us any safer. All countries need to step up, but we have a special responsibility here in the United States, and the 2 largest nuclear weapon states must lead the way. So unless we take action, and unless our leaders take action, the nuclear risk is going to grow. So many of us believe, and we just heard in the discussion here some great ideas about how we can break through the noise, the daily headlines that we hear about all sorts of important and somewhat less important things. How can we come together and unite around an approach that moves us back from the brink. So today, and I want to cue up this on the screen. Today, the leaders of more than 24 regional, national, and international civil society organizations and former government officials and advisors, leading academicians and experts, and some concerned cultural figures have joined together to launch a short, focused appeal designed to provide a common rallying cry for urgent action to halt and reverse the new arms race and to step back from the brink of nuclear war. This is the text of the short statement. This is the problem part of the statement. The new call to halt and reverse the nuclear arms race encourages organized opposition in the United States and other countries to the deployment of more nuclear weapons by any country, to the use or threat of the use of these weapons, and opposition to the possible renewal of nuclear explosive testing as a key step towards the total elimination of all nuclear weapons. And it urges support for nuclear disarmament diplomacy, which must begin very soon. This appeal, which emerged from a strategy meeting that we organized with the Nuclear Threat Initiative with support from one of our colleagues, the Prospect Hill Foundation, and many organizations. It emerged from a strategy retreat late last year. And the purpose is to offer a short, understandable idea that we think can gain traction, that we hope can attract broad support and serve as a common vehicle for messaging and focused action by our organizations, institutions, and hopefully many others. We're offering this not as a new campaign or new organization or a new formal coalition, but really as a rallying cry for a wide range of civil society organizations who are already engaged, who are already present in communities around the country and here in Washington on the nuclear disarmament cause. And for those who support these goals, but who are working at other adjacent and very worthy causes, whether they consider themselves to be conservative, liberal, progressive, or something else altogether. The call is posted on a dedicated website that we've just created, reversethearmsrace.org, easy to remember, that lists the endorsers, and that list hopefully will grow. And hopefully this also will serve as a connection point for citizen engagement and to provide interested organizational leaders and individuals to get involved in concrete actions that many of the organizations that have endorsed the call already are involved in. So in the following weeks and months following today's launch, we'll be inviting still more leaders of civil society organizations, former government officials, cultural figures in the US and around the globe to lend their support for the call to weigh in to build a safer world for everyone. So we hope you'll take a look at that. We hope this is a useful contribution. I now turn it over to my partner, Sarah.
So, again, these are the current endorsers, but I also just wanted to thank everyone who is in this room. So many of you have spent so much time working on these issues. And to folks at home, I really hope that this has been a moment for you to understand some of the impacts of these weapons and what has already worked and the challenge that lays ahead. And if folks take one thing away from today, I want it to be that anyone who tells you that these weapons are helping reduce the threat is inaccurate. These weapons are the threat. And I know David called for patience. I am not a patient woman. But I also go around the country, and a lot of times people ask me, especially in moments like now, do our voices have impact? Are we getting there? And to folks who ask me that, well, one, I would encourage you all to grab a copy of the New York Times today, especially when Without War activists, you will see our logo and many of others in the New York Times today, because the notion that the budget bill that David was talking about, that things like food stamps are being cut because we are told that they don't have enough oversight. And yet, when you look at a program like food stamps, it is harder for people who are hungry to get access to those benefits than it is for one president to decide to launch a nuclear weapon. And that is how broken our system is, right? We talked about the impact that everyone has had and the movements have had. Now, for a second, imagine that after the Trinity tests and after everything else that happened, the organizing and the backlash hadn't been there. Imagine if the people who shared their stories decided to stay silent. Now, I know there is a lot more work for us to do, but the world we have avoided as a result of everyone who has been in that struggle is far greater than any of us realizes and gives ourselves credit for. And to just take that a heartbeat further, I think people always underestimate the power of movements and the power of activists. And I will here share my own story. As like a woman whose ancestors are from Iran, I got the privilege of meeting my great-grandmother. And I think about my great-grandmother, and I think about my grandmother, who in their generations, being able to just work was something they had to fight for. And then if you could work outside of the field of education or as nurses, that was something they had to fight for. And now I stand here before you as the executive director of one of the biggest national security organizations with over 300,000 activists. Never in their wildest dreams would they have imagined that one of their daughters would grow up, be able to come to the US, be able to march through the halls of Congress, and be able to, in years past, go to the White House and look some of the most powerful people in the world in the eye and tell them they were wrong and they needed to do better. But that was achieved within 2 to 3 generations. And the reason I get to do that, the reason I get to go and look those people in the eye and tell them you are failing and that they cannot kick me out of those rooms is because of the 300,000 people who are with us every day through this fight. We are not small. Most people agree with us. And almost everyone I've talked to has a moment where decision makers have told them that what you're doing isn't working. Because guess what? When we go and we have meetings with them, or when they don't take our meetings and we have mobile billboards outside of their offices or protests outside of their offices, they don't like it. So of course they tell us it's not working. But again, it is the only thing that has ever worked. And as we struggle, as things look bleak, I encourage you all to remember just how much we have achieved, the worlds that we have avoided, and how through the struggle we not only pay homage to our ancestors, but safeguard the future of our kids. And with that, I will close with a quote from the Habakasha. The Habakasha are the ones who know the humanitarian consequences of the use of nuclear weapons. We will continue to convey that reality. Please listen to us. Please empathize with us. Find out what you can do and take action together with us. Nuclear weapons cannot coexist with human beings. They were created by humans. Let us assume the responsibility to abolish them with the wisdom of public conscience. And as we leave, let us remember, we can get this done. Thank you.